point something that you find really exciting in your presentation. Please take a note of it and then we can discuss it at the end. The second goal is probably to the presenters, maybe to be covered. Sorry, I wasn't clear at the beginning, but we are videoing the presentations. So if you have any objections about it, please contact the organizers or let us know. We can switch on the camera, but that's made for the purpose of being able to upload up-to-date videos and make a wider auditory covering of your aspects. And then that's pretty much it. The presentations are supposed to be about 10 minutes, not as short as the previous session. 10 minutes, and then you have 5 minutes for questions. We have 3 presentations, so probably we'll have longer time for discussions again. Please try to keep it as short as possible. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So the first presenter is Pravishti Eksandi, who is a technical program coordinator in Southeast Asia for BORDA. Thank you. So they're both presenting together with Marina, who is a project coordinator in BORDA.
Everybody, Pravishti and me are sharing presentations, and in addition to our abstract, we added one more content. We will not only talk about experience from the fields in Indonesia in Mojokerto, but we also will include the Banda Aceh project, sludge treatment plant project we will implement. Yes, as you know, the topic for today is how can municipalities or how can we ensure a safe and healthy fecal sludge treatment? This is the question, and our experience from BORDA Indonesia started about 10 years ago, so I guess this is quite an interesting presentation to see how things can develop over 1 decade. What BORDA did in 2004-2005, we developed a demand-responsive sludge treatment plant for municipalities in order to complement the DEVAT systems we are implementing in our projects, basically CBS projects, community-based sanitation projects, to make sure that the disposal and the processing of septic urban sludge is done well. So the treatment plants we developed are basically for small and medium-sized cities, and they collect septic from urban areas, on-site systems such as septic tanks, pit latrines, but also from our CBS projects. And they include biogas generation opportunity as well as composting opportunities. So, in contrary to the, at that time, existing common treatment plant systems, our systems allow, as you can see on the screen, emission of odor to a minimum because it's a closed system. So it's easy to install in urban areas, which also reduces the transportation costs of the sludge. Besides, this leads to an increase of human health and environmental protection. Yes, and also they would need less space than the common pond systems. Furthermore, less electricity or no electricity, and low maintenance is required. So what were the challenges we are facing, or that we are still facing in implementing such treatment plant systems in Indonesia? I think in most of the presentations, the aspects were mentioned already, but I will highlight them anyways again. So depending on the different kind of system or location, conditions in the surrounding area, we need to consider this when creating or developing a system. Besides, transportation costs are a key factor. Besides this, as you heard already, the disposal of sludge often happens illegally, so it's just the sludge disposed into the rivers. Furthermore, the service providers, furthermore there's a lack of regulations, so also in Indonesia there is no clear structure who is responsible, who should do what. In some cities there are, but it's not really connected and it's also not enforced. Besides, we need to think about how do we provide incentives for the service providers, basically the private sector. So to give you a short overview on the two projects we are talking about today. The first one is the project in Mojokerto. This is in East Java. In 2005, we implemented a sludge treatment plant over there for about 120,000 inhabitants. The investment costs were about 150,000 US dollars. And the project was co-financed by WADA, the Ministry of Public Works, and the municipality as well as the local government over there. WADA implemented the system. That means we designed, implemented, supervised the construction, and after implementation we also facilitated the operation and maintenance for about 6 years, which included also technical monitoring. After this period, operation maintenance was handed over to the local government. The second project is the Banda Aceh project. As you know, 2004, the tsunami hit the area over there and also destroyed a majority of the existing sanitation facilities as well as the sludge treatment plant. So the JICA organization from Japan, you may know this, financed the rehabilitation of the destroyed plant over there, but also did the local government request UNICEF to install an additional plant in order to respond to the increased demand due to the camps that were implemented after the tsunami. So WADA in cooperation with the GIZ or GTZ at that time, as well as our WADA Indonesia partner network, we implemented plans. And to give you some figures here as well, it served, or it still served 250,000 inhabitants, Investment costs were about 450,000 US dollars. And the treatment capacity is all in all, together with the rehabilitation plant, 60 cubic millimeters per day. I would now hand over to Pravisti to give you some more details. She just went to Banda Aceh and there were also some monitoring going on in Mojokerto.
Thank you, Marina. This is my chance I would like to present some more detail about what Marina already mentioned before, that this is two of the treatment plants we have in Indonesia. We already implemented 10 years ago. This is the Banda Aceh city with the anaerobic system and sludge drying tank and two plated paper filter, if maybe you know, and then the maturation ponds. So this is served for 60 cubic a day. And beside of these plants, they have already the JICA plants, which is already covered for 20 cubic a day. But it's not enough because the plants should be covered two cities, Banda Aceh city and Aceh Besar Agency. So they would need at least 90 cubic a day. But in fact, later I will explain it. And then Mojokerto city. This is in East Java, which is should be covered for 100,000 to 120,000 inhabitants. So it's based on the request from the government. They ask for 23 cubic a day. So the system similar. We use the anaerobic system, which is consists of two digesters because they want to have a kind of advantage treatment, except not only the dried sludge, treated water, but they want to have the biogas because in that time the biogas is very famous in Indonesia. So that's why there are possibility to collect the gas from the vehicle sludge. So this is the comparison. In fact, that in Banda Aceh city, now present by now they serve for 15 trucks per day. But then the real input is 8 to 10 trucks per day. There are some reason inside because it's depend on the season. During the rainy season, it will be more often that the truck will come to the treatment plant. But during the dry season for 6 months, it will be less. And then in Mojokerto city, we design for 8 trucks per day, but in fact it's 1 to 2 trucks per day. And the water outlet quality is around 38, beauty COD 198, and this is for Banda Aceh city for 20 and 212 for COD. The income, the operational cost, is much different. With this Mojokerto condition, they need subsidize at least 2,713 per year, because the income from the facility itself is not enough. But in Banda Aceh city, they have better management in the local government. They have surplus at least 450 US dollars per year. This is, I show you some two different pictures, that because the retention time then for the treatment plants is much higher in Mojokerto than the Banda Aceh. So this is already 3 months in the slab drying bed, they're not dislodged yet. And then this is in the slab drying bed at least for 2 weeks. So the comparison are different. Why? Because these natural conditions. In Mojokerto city, they have very high absorption of soil and the regency in the mountain area. So it's like hilly. So it's quite easy for the water to absorb to the soil. But in Banda Aceh city, as we know that they are in the store area where the water is difficult to absorb. So that's why the housing septic tank dislodge frequency is 1 to 5 years, but in Mojokerto up to 10 years, sometimes 20 years. And this is the administration structure in the leading sector. Both of city, they're leading by cleaning department of the city. They have 2 operators, 4 operators for Banda Aceh and driver. Both of city, they have only 1 vacuum truck for the from the public, but from the private company they have some more trucks. So this is how they manage the taking order from the community until to the treatment plants. So the community will order, they will have special staff to take order, and then they will publish the order registration form, and then the dispatching staff, they will see that the location is access or in access. If not in access, they have to back to the community, then they have to have another option to taking the sludge. And then the discharging staff will discharge, and the community will pay directly to the discharging staff, and discharging staff will give to the treasurer of the cleaning department of the city. You can see the comparison with the Mojokerto city. It's much simple, but it's difficult then to manage the treatment plants. Community will have to order directly. There are some stickers stamped in the city that if you want to discharge, you have to call this number. So this is the only way. So in the office itself, they have no any taking order when community want to discharge. And then the discharging will done, and then the payment directly to the driver of the discharging staff, and then the driver have to give the retribution for 5 USD to the treasurer in the field. So the comparison with the Banda Aceh, they have to pay in the office. So maybe this is the different management which is need to. So this is some pictures from Banda Aceh. All of the treatment plant of septic in Indonesia mostly located in the middle of dam site area. So, treatment plant located in the middle of dam site area. You can see with some quay trucks. This is the quality of the dry slag from the slag drying bed, and this is the end point of the slag treatment plant. This is in Mojokerto. Also in the middle of the dump site, but it's quite small, but they have the biogas still there. They still produce the biogas, and it's quite good, and the operator uses for cooking. And maybe I'm handing over to Maria.
Thanks, Kravisi. So I think what we can see, there are two different locations with quite different conditions. And I think it's nice to compare the situation 10 years after. And I think our lesson learned is it's still working. And I would say Banda Aceh is working a bit better than Mojokerto. There were some other issues, but I think it's working. And our lessons learned from this, very general, is first of all, in order to operate a system like this, you of course need vacuum trucks to get the sludge out of the capture area. This is quite clear, I guess. The second point for good operational system and maintenance is that we need a clear regulatory framework. That means the responsibilities of the authorities and the persons in charge need to be clear. So as Kravisi shown on the scheme in Banda Aceh, it's quite structured, it's quite clear how to communicate to who's responsible for what. But for instance, in Mojokerto, there were some issues between the local government and the city, because the treatment plant is used for both city and regency, and they had no formal agreement, or there were no MOUs or whatever which could regulate or state the responsibilities. But also this could not be influenced by water, of course. This is something the governmental authorities have to take care of. And as also said by Kravisi, one specific topic in Indonesia is that the sludge treatment plants are combined with the landfills. So we would also observe that sometimes it's not easy to access the locations because the solid waste is in the way. So this is also something that needs to be considered. How can we synchronize responsibilities for sludge treatment and, as in Indonesia, for solid waste in the landfill. Yes, and then of course we also need persons who are skilled, who are trained operators to manage the facilities well. Besides, of course, we need budget. So we have to think how can we maybe improve the system. And I think in Banda Aceh it's quite good. But the idea is also to include it into the billing system of water and electricity bills, something like that, so that the community directly pays. And besides this, we need more law enforcement, more regulations, as I said before. One topic is also how can we make sure that the private sector, the companies responsible for resludging or the communities' locations really do that, and that they also pay to the sludge treatment plants. This is a big topic, how to enforce it. And yes, the last point we put here is we still need to go on raising awareness on all levels, on all stakeholder levels, also on all levels of implementations or on processing, from the capture area up to the processing area on site. Especially when we talk about the community level, we need to make more clear why do we need all this? What is the septic tank? How does it work? How do we make sure it does not overflow, it does not leak, in order to improve health? And of course, we also need to train and raise awareness maybe more among the operators, the governmental agencies, authorities, in order to make clear why do we need this and also what is the benefit. Yeah? We mentioned there's a biogas option, there's a composting option, which could later be used for fertilizing agricultural locations and areas or irrigation, for instance. So this is basically our presentation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you, Kravisi and Marina. It was a very interesting presentation. Do you have any questions? Before we go to the questions, could you please introduce yourself and your organization?
with the government. I am director of town panchayats, so smaller TA. So we are also working on a similar line, and we are much earlier stage. My question is that in this case, is the infrastructure for desludging provided by the local body, or is it private sector that you are using? Regarding this rice disposal, co-composted along with the solid waste, and then is there a market for that? How that is being disposed?
So you mean the service providers who desludge from the community level?
Yeah, first question was that in your metrics you told that that is your staff, after that the staff, then the desludging. So that means the local body itself is taking the responsibility of desludging.
Exactly.
So isn't the private sector available in Indonesia which is doing the same thing? So
it's depending on the locations also. There are also private service providers.
So whether the private sector also being used in this case or it is not? Because if the government competes with the private sector, then definitely they will be also taking and disposing an unregulated position. But if the state does not enter into existing market and it does a facilitating and regulatory role, then probably with the GPS fixed devices or something, the private sector registration of vehicles or that kind of thing, whether an exercise was done to regulate the private operators. And second is about the disposal of this issue.
Thank you for the question. That the local government, they have their own, we call it cleaning department. So they are responsible to operate the system. The system of the treatment plant is belong to the government. But they only have one maximum 2 trucks in this scale of city. So there are some private company which is have their own truck, and then they will discharge to the treatment plant of the city, and then they will have to pay the retribution, something like that. So this is one of the income for the city. And for the dry sludge, they use as the fertilizer for city gardening, because even in Banda Aceh, the composting from the sludge treatment plant is not enough for the whole city. But in Mojokerto, I think they should improve what should they do with the sludge, because sometimes it's standing there for half year.
Thank you.
Next question.
And the other question is, do you have any idea of the pathogen content of the final digested of final product that you are using as fertilizer? Thank you.
So the first question that why do we have the digester? Because before we try to design the treatment plants, we observe to the some of the vacuum plants. At least in every city we have to take the sampling from 8 different plants. So we have to ask. And the average
ví dụ hai bàn này thì 5 giây thôi, xong rồi đẩy vào kia, xong ví dụ có thay người khác em ra ngoài này em làm 5 giây thôi, xong nó sẽ bán xong. Chứ còn cái hình toán thì không nhìn thấy mồm nên là mình dùng cho chỗ nào cũng được mà. Nhưng mà phải ưu tiên mình cận. Mình cận của mình đang hiện tại đang rất mạnh, mình kiểm tra xong. Ở mũi đẩy cao lên để cho nó giảm bớt, thế là đẩy cao máy lên.
To the stabilization reactor. So we have kind of reactor which is need to stabilize the sludge from the digester at least for 15 days each. And then the stabilization reactor will have separated between sludge and water. The water will flow to the planted gravel filter, and the sludge will flow to the sludge drain. And the
Thank you.
second question? Sorry. About the pathogens. Yeah. So the effluent, the pathogen of the sludge or for the treated water? The effluent pathogen. So we have maturation point, which is we use that. We hope that with the UV light we can reduce it, and we have planted gravel and anaerobic system. So in total HRT is already more than 30 days. And The maturation was also around 2 days. So I hope that with this system we can reduce the pathogen.
Thank you. Next question.
Thank you for your presentation. I'm called Oscar from Uganda. I work with water for people. I have 2 questions. I'm interested in knowing the quality of your influent fecal sludge in terms of POD and COD as a pioneer for the effluent. Then I'd like to know some countries, for example, where I come from, we normally have some forms of precipitation like rainfall, and when you sample like during rainfall season, you may be excited by results. So I'd like to know those values you showed us. Are they like over a range, or you can tell us like when we were taken and you know the geography?
The first question was referring to the COD, BOD of the effluent. Effluent.
The influence, like what I mentioned before, that we take it randomly sampling from the vacuum truck itself directly. So we have at least 8 trucks we have to take during rainy season, during dry season, and where the wastewater from, where the fecal sludge from. Sometimes they're taken from the housing, sometimes they're taken from the hotel or restaurant. Is quite high different. So that's why we put it inside. It's around 700 kg.
Okay, and the last question.
Honor with Carleton University, Canada. So that's the perfect slide to ask this question. I see that one of your systems is profitable and the other one is not. And I was wondering, what is covered under income? What is your income? And if there is any revenue coming from your final sludge or product, do you give it away for free, or is there some sale of the product? So what is the income that's, or the revenue for these 2 operations?
So actually, like what I mentioned before, that the government, they use their own dried sludge from the treatment plants directly to use as the city gardening. So no income from the sludge itself actually. But the income only comes from the retribution of the vacuum truck, which is discharged to the treatment plant.
That's the last question for the session. I'm sure there are plenty of questions. We can either do it over the break, or we have time after the other presentations to discuss.
Hello, thank you for your presentation. I'm Shay Saxena from University of Delaware. I think you mentioned that these treatment plants are within the city limits, and I just want to know if there are any border problems which the city faces, and if there is any backlash after a decade when you have reached like the potential for wastewater treatment plants.
Thank you for the question. In the first slide, I think, we mentioned already that 80% of our treatment plants is a closed plant. So this is an anaerobic system. And then the effluent will flow to the vented gravel filter, the first open system, and then maturation pond. So with this system, one of the advantages that the odor already reduced. And anyway, the treatment plants located in the dump site. Yeah. So I still don't nobody complain about the odor.
I would like to invite once again to thank Pravisi and Marina. The next presenter is also from border Germany. This is Thomas Hoffman, engineer, resource recovery, renewable energy, and wastewater treatment.
presentation, or my presentation, about innovative fecal sludge treatment. Well, basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to present you the results of different pilot projects which we have been doing in East Southern Africa, Mozambique, Tanzania, Zambia, and which we're as well planning to implement in Madagascar. And I will let you know what, how we have planned it, what we have learned, and what we think we need to improve for the upcoming projects. So, yes, I will give you a short introduction about the projects. Again, lessons learned and what are the design innovations. So, the projects which we have done is in Lusaka, which we started actually off with FSM projects in Africa in 2012, Dar es Salaam afterwards, and then following Maputo and Antananarivo, partnering here with these 3 projects with WSUP. So just to give you a brief information, the picture, what you can see there, that's the project in Lusaka, with the receiving basin where the sludge is dumped into an anaerobic biogas digester, a volume of 50 cubic meters, basically, which I would like to, what I would really like to point out here is that we have an incoming sludge of above 15%, which is, creating quite some trouble for desludging of the digester. I will later on refer to that. Also, what is very intense is the 22% of solid waste, plastics. We've heard that in other presentations already before. So separating this waste as it comes into the digester or the treatment system, as well as already during the emptying process, creating quite a hazard for us. Okay, when we're planning these systems, we're usually looking at actually an organic loading rate of up to 2 kg, but in this case, the system is not getting enough sludge. So as well, in this case, we're coming to a more complex structure of also competition with other treatment plants or other transfer stations in the region. Okay, second project is here in Tanzania, Dar es Salaam. What you can see here is actually here on the ground, we have a 50 cubic meter digester and we have a following ABR right there, 25 cubic meters. So in Dar es Salaam, in this region, we have different sludge content. That's also related to cultural reasons because there's lots of water used for sanitation purposes. And we have as well less solid waste. What is interesting for this system is that we have on-site drying, which you can see there, and that is a good decision. So let's say if we have the possibility to do on-site drying right away, that is something which we should always go for in Lusaka. We didn't do that, and we have transport costs from the first treatment system to the second treatment system of solar drying. So what I can as well say here to the ABR, well, I think I'm concluding later, so I will keep you excited. That's a different project now in Maputo, Mozambique, again planning with WSUP. Really, the treatment plant is really directly, or was planned to be directly inside the community next to a soccer field, which you can see there. Unfortunately, it's on hold right now due to different political reasons which were coming up. So we have the project right now in the drawer, and we're trying to get it implemented once these problems are solved. So summarizing these projects, I can tell you that the solid waste is really an issue for the treatment systems. Once we have it separated, we have piles of solid waste on site, like this, on the drying rack, also creating odor and later on creating another cost factor, which is transporting the solid waste to another dumping site. They as well tried running right now for incineration, but there's no result yet, which I can present to you. Okay, incoming sludge. Yes, I was saying that already. That is a problem with accumulation of sludge inside the digester. Because we're using gravity desludging, and that way we're not able, by the force of gravity, to desludge all the solids in the ground, so we have an accumulation of sludge. I will show you that as well. As well here, when we're having, oh, that was the description here. So we're having actually create over time, we're having that volume created inside the digester. We have more sludge which cannot be extracted. That is sometimes content of sand, and we have as well a lot of already suspended or very digested solids which are just accumulating there, doing nothing basically. Okay, so peak load, yeah, that was a problem in Dar es Salaam. In Dar es Salaam we have, since the operator noticed, wow, I'm actually making money with my plant, he was inviting vacuum trucks to dump their sludge inside the treatment plant. So, which was obviously not, the system was not designed for that. And suddenly we had peak loads of 6 cubic meters running through the system, and that was especially for the ABR a problem, because basically flushed our sludge from one chamber to another out of the system. So the ABR is quite sensitive to peak loads in this case. Okay, what is interesting as well is the gas production rate, that we have actually well, what is sufficient, but I don't want to become philosophical, but we have gas which we can actually market, and which we can use on the treatment plant, which is an interesting case for marketing the system. So, interventions and how we reacted to these solutions is that with screening we need to have a double screen for the incoming fecal sludge to get out most or all as much as possible from the solid waste, from the plastics. In one presentation earlier, someone said with education you cannot change that, which is probably true, because you have secret waste, and they were calling it secret waste. So we have hygiene, menstruation, all kinds of waste which needs to be hidden somewhere, and that's difficult to say. There's some limits in education, let's say it that way. Okay, so double digest, Pravesti was as well presenting that, and we were referring to the same solution, because first we wanted to keep the cost low with one digester, but we see that it is actually necessary to keep the outflow TS, or to get the outflow TS lower, to have double anaerobic digestion. As well, implementing or having something like a Bristol filter in the outlet pipe, which holds back the solids, so we have something that we have an effluent below 1% TS. Yeah, no ABR, I said here. That is very drastically formulated, but if we want to have a system which is robust, and we have someone, or we have on the one hand the trigger that the business is actually pulling in and dumping sludge there, and we have actually a system which cannot deal with peak loads, then we might need to avoid an ABR system like that, or we need to adapt the ABR that it can rather more deal with big volumes. Well, and for gas utilization, only institutional, which is reasonable to have it more easily, to be easily manageable. Okay. When we are now looking at the systems in Madagascar, I would like you to let you know what we're planning with right now. So we're looking at, first target is a solid liquid separation, because we want to maximize the resource recovery. We want to have a lot of gas and we want to have a lot of solids. Which is, I mean, if we're talking about pathogens, I can say already here that the sludge which we have at the end, or the dried sludge, unfortunately still has pathogen content at the moment with that drying time. So if we would have more drying time, but it's not, drying is in this sense not a very easy process for guaranteeing to kill all pathogens. So if we would want to go with pathogen die-off, we would need to go for something more drastically with pasteurization or other options which are more cost intensive. So looking at the system which is going to be implemented, the tender process is running right now in Tana. We're having these two biogas digesters here. We have a recirculation of the effluent, the displaced effluent, which you see there, to reuse for dilution when we're bringing in the sludge in the receiving basin. We're using as well the biogas for pumping the water into the tank, and also for the mixing system, which I'll show you later. So on that side, we have different islands basically. Here we have a drying island, and for the solids are going here, and the liquids are going to irrigation fields. So that is the focus on the separation. Okay, so this is a closer look on the system. Two digesters, recirculation of effluent. Here is a tank which is keeping, or where the pump is pumped inside. That is the incoming basin with a grid for separating the solids. And here you see the sludge discharge pipes for extracting the solids on the ground. The gas, this is something which is now, it's really piloted because of that issue which I was explaining to you with the solids accumulating on the ground. We have the issue that we need to find ways of how to get up the sludge. So in this case, we're using, we're trialing with water a hydraulic mixing system where we're actually pumping in the effluent from the overflow from the system back to the bottom of the digester, oriented in these pipes which are entering here. We have 3 pipes entering, which is kind of creating this swirl inside the digester, and centripetal forces basically accumulate, or hopefully accumulate, the sludge in the center, and in that moment we're able to extract more sludge. And we'll be doing that basically, we're planning to do that three times a day. So that's how the system right now is designed for. We're looking forward to actually try it and to see how that is going to improve the sludging process, or the operation process of the system. As well, the steering will probably produce an increased amount of gas, so that'll be as well interesting to see. Thank you, and yes, I'm happy to hear some questions.
Questions?
Hi Thomas, Steve from the South African Water Research Mission. I think when designing, you have to decide whether it's fecal sludge or septic. And I think like in this country it's more septic. You look at your pupils, what it's 1,000 views, 700 views. When you design the research device, it will be the same in South Africa. You have to come up with another. Also the bathroom reactor system. Probably we work better data and you can have it on the flow. But it's also how you design the compartments inside. If you use a downflow pipe, you might have more shadow. That's why literature says bathroom reactors are very good in some. Bathroom reactors are little better in solid potential. So large outflow section, you could preserve that equal. You don't have to change the design. So just factor those parts into your design. And I think just factor those parts into your design.
Yeah, depends. And what is, yeah, maybe we have a talk later on, that would be nice.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I kind of have the feeling that we have the same people asking questions. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you for your presentation. Once again, I'm Oscar. I expected to see some results about the efficiency. I didn't see some. Then also, I'm looking at the volumes of your digesters. I'm looking at about 50 meters cubed. You're receiving about 2 meters cubed of fecal sludge per day. I don't get the economic side as if it's you're spending so much and then you're managing some little sludge. Can't you put like on the loading rates? Then some of the fecal sludge. I don't know whether you've gotten like fecal sludge you cannot flow through pipes. Very thick that can't flow. And when you let it go into the digesters, I don't know how you do moving that sludge. You talked about it, but some of it can be too thick.
Okay, for your first question, I think that is referring to BOD, COD incoming outcome, is that correct? You were more on the treatment efficiency. Unfortunately, I cannot give you any results on that. I can give you results on the TS or TBS that has been the analysis, but it has as well been critical on the results. So we are still in the monitoring program of these existing treatment systems. For the second question, yes, that is an issue. 15% or above 15% is getting quite difficult to extract sludge like that through a pipe. And that is the reason why we're thinking about different or a steering mechanism or a mixing system to be actually make a more hygiene sludge content for the moment of desludging. That is hydraulic mixing, what I was referring to. Thanks.
There is a question over
Yeah. Good afternoon, my name is Arthur from Philippines. I don't know if I missed it from your presentation. May I know how much is the cost of that project? And with regards to operation, how much is the cost also during operation?
Okay, thanks. Well, for the cost, we calculate this 8 euros, which would be something like $10 US per capita treated fecal sludge. So the system can be basically adapted to each of that, to each scale.
Thank you for your drawings. I would like to know how big the size of the area.
How big again?
The size, land.
Oh, the land, okay, well, very good point. Also, depending on the systems we are talking about, we have, let me show you the website here. That's a system which is well planned in Antananarivo, really in the urban area, and we really try to keep it very, very compact. This is 25 by 25 meters, where we as well have a high groundwater level, so the digesters are constructed above ground with displacement tanks on top of the digesters. So it's really ranging from what land is available. As more land we have available, we have low prices as well for the land. It's good to go into space it more out to have as well, for example, more drying space. So it really ranges. I can't tell you right now the number of square meters per fecal sludge treated.
Thank you. And there's the last question.
So from your presentation, I understand that the main reason you wanted to switch to anaerobic digestion systems is because the ADR system did not work well, or SASs did not equal. but you can make the same argument for anaerobic digestion-based systems, and in fact they're much more complex. Another point is if the starting material is septic sludge, that's already sludge that is anaerobically digested. So you are already losing the biogas, the readily digestible material that's already lost. And so from your presentation, I understand that one of the driving forces for choosing the anaerobic digestion is also the biogas generation. But like in the end, I do not know if this system would be feasible or if it would be an improvement over the first system that you started.
Thanks. Well, first maybe there was a misunderstanding with the ABR, or because I mean we have it's ABR or biogas digesters, we have both anaerobic systems. The ABR basically is in this case only be identified as not suitable for peak loads, since it is forcing the sludge all the way through the whole volume, flushing out the sludge. So that's the reason why we are right now not sticking with the ABR. And double biogas approach is as well as we are trying to accumulate most of the sludge or trap most of the sludge in the first digester. We have a stabilization of the effluent anaerobically in the second digester. So that is the major motivation. And we have a digester again, which is more resilient to peak loads. So we have still solids which are accumulating at the bottom, and if a peak load is coming, it is not flushing out the sludge right away into our irrigation field.
I would like to invite you once again to and it's time for our last presenter, Tom Butlin, who is the Managing Director of Chain 2 at Tom Environment.
Good afternoon, everybody. I come from China, from Chengdu Dayton. Everybody will know China is the most country, has most developed countries in biogas sector. So China has constructed most biogas digester, especially small household, more than 40 million. And small, medium, and large scale, more than 20,000. So, but most of the treatment of livestock manure, not just from organic waste, like sludge from wastewater treatment plant, kitchen waste, on municipal solid waste to energy with anaerobic digester. My company, we are an engineer company from feasibility study, concept to construction biogas plant for treatment of the thicker sludge organic waste. So in worldwide, we have constructed some biogas plant in Tanzania, in Africa. Now we just got the Gates Foundation project for treatment of thicker sludge and some organic waste in Burkina Faso. So my partner is there. So we want to look for business model for the treat the thicker sludge to make some money now through our anaerobic technology, produce energy for electricity or for this fuel, biofuel. So this project, I want to introduce one of our project with installation a biogas project in Nanjing University of Technology. You can see they have a lot of organic waste, so we use the thicker sludge and the straw. You know, in China they have so many problems with straw, rice straw. They have burnt, make some very heavy pollution. So Chinese government, agriculture ministry want to look for solutions. How can treat the straw and then make solution to resolve this problem. So we get this project, we want to together co-fermentation with Ficus larger from this university campus to make biogas, and this produce the biogas. We just upgrading to methane gas to drive this car and bus for this university. And this effluent from the biogas we have used for fertilizer, and this liquid phase we have also made some research work to produce high concentrated nutrition solutions for agriculture. So this is our flow chart, So we have this main components is CSTR. Oh, sorry. CSTR. And this is the. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay, do it. Okay. Okay, this is we use 300 cubic meter CSTR anaerobic digester. What's CSTR? Completely stirring tanks reactor. So we have used some innovative technology with hydraulic mixer system together with gas mixer system. So we have a special pro-treatment system for the straw. We have with very good technology for the separator after fermentation. So this is our main parameters for biogas digester. You can see the steady straw treatment with TS 87% with very dry, about 0.8 ton. We have Ficus large about 80 cubic meter per day. So that's total import materials is about 8.8 ton and cubic meter per day. We will produce about 330 cubic meter biogas per day. So this produced biogas will feed into the PSA system to produce methane gas for the driver car. So this effluent from this biogas will produce solid biofertilizer and liquid biofertilizer. We use temperature about 40 degrees centigrade mesosphere fermentation technology. So this is our raw material collection system. So we have two kinds of raw material. This is called fermentation. One is the Ficus large. A lot we collected from the septic tank from different places in this university. So we collected also this straw with packet pallet to transport to our biogas plant. So this uses this tractor. We start this Ficus large from different septic tank and use some special silver which get ready for foreign object. The move is this foreign particle. So this is also very important for the treatment of the straw. You know, this straw very long, sometimes very difficult to treat it. We have used special Haven hammers from Germany, this know-how from Germany, to make this particle very small, less than 3 mm, and then as feeding materials. So we have used some recycling of the effluent to increase this bacteria to make some very high biogas output. So this is also special gas liquid mixer. We call it gas and hydraulic mixer system integration, because with different area in the tanks, you know, this straw is very difficult to mix sometimes with swimming layer. So just make a block for the digester for the effluent and influent. That's big problem. We have resolved it. So we have also a membrane gas storage. with 300 cubic meter. So this produces biogas with storage in gas membrane storage, and then we use it into this controlling system. We have also online gas analyzer with methane content, CO2 content, H2S content, O2 content, everything automatically. So these are some equipment for this biogas digester. So we have finished this digester last year in July. And after this biogas digestion storage, we use this PSA upgrading system into the methane gas and drive the car. So this methane content can reach 98%. So you can see this is also our output. So most important, what we can use it is this output. We have gas, so we use for car. We have effluent. We have solid effluent. We have liquid effluent. We use as biofertilizer with very high value and very expensive, much expensive than normal compost. So this is we have made some scientific analyzer with some project from Science and Technology Ministry. We try to sell it and some big money. We want to make this project has economical operating. That's most important because produce biogas can also integrate make electricity. But I think if make methane gas, you can make 4 times value income than make electricity anyhow in China. So this is my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. I am Shanjini. You said you actually have big success in selling off your byproduct and product. Now in other countries we're actually having a lot of difficulties getting difficulties when people won't sell fertilizer companies to take it away from the selfish management. So is this a very China specific thing? Is it cultural? Is it, is there subsidies by the government? How come it's so successful in Chinese scenario?
Yes, I think this is most important for biogas project. I think we must use this output, not only this gas. Gas is one this main output, but also this fertilizer. So fertilizer we have 2 phases mostly. We have liquid phase and we have solid phase. So most think this liquid phase has very less content, value content, nutrient content. That's not true. If we use special, just like a membrane, so to concentrate it, NPK or some very high values liquid phase also.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. So if I understand correctly, you have 2 substrates for your biogas plant.
Yeah,
one is fecal
fermentation. Yes.
And one is straw. So I'm wondering how much biogas is produced from fecal sludge and how much is produced from the straw? Do you have any idea as to the value of each?
Yeah, you are right. In my main parameters, they are indicated exact how many from biogas. So from straw, how many from fecal sludge. I think the most biogas come from straw because the straw have most high TS content, and the fecal sludge, is very dilute with TS percent at 1.8 like that. So if we want to do for our Gelafasu project, gas foundation project, we have make concentrated before into the biogas digester. Let this sludge with 6, 7, 8% of TS content. Otherwise, if too dilute, so the TS content too low, it's not economical for biogas digester, my opinion. Must reach at least 6, 7, 8%.
Thank you. I have another question. If you look at some biogas industries in European countries, for example, Germany and the UK, they are viable because of government subsidies. Is that the case in China?
Yes, in China, Chinese government putting so many money in constructing biogas plant. But now, from this year, I have attended this meeting from the Agriculture Ministry. So we want to change our subject, not into the construction plant, or for output. How many biogas you produce, not how many biogas you constructed it. So this reason, you know, in China biogas, European we use for electricity, some for methane gas. But in China, I think not very suitable for developing country. We use direct for cooking, use pipeline for village. So that's also very good idea, I think, with pipeline for cooking and for shower, for lighting.
Hi, my name is Amy from Borda, Afghanistan. One question, I'm just wondering about the effect of temperature on your biogas system, and if you have any solutions for this cold kind of climate biogas.
Okay, my opinion, this fermentation temperature, I think is a mesosphere about 37, 38, 14 is enough, because if you use thermosphere about 55 degrees centigrade, you need a lot of energy to keep this temperature. So we must calculate with balance. Second one, if you co-fermentation, in mesosphere you have more kind of bacterial salt than this thermosphere.
Good afternoon. My name is Amadou. I'm from Senegal. Just one question about the case study on biogas. If you see the income resource, it is a fecal sludge and also for the plant you use to produce biogas. If you take some case, for example, in the Burkina case, where the rainy season is just for 3 months, we do not have maybe competition between forage used for animal feed, and also if you cannot have enough forage to use it with fecal sludge for produce enough biogas. If you just want to know the sustainability of the system, if you focus only for the solid waste with the fresh plant coming for the area. If you know the rainy season is just 3 months.
So this also, I told you, if we want to treat this fecal sludge with anaerobic technology, that means biogas technology, in my opinion, because I come from anaerobic sector, biogas sector, more than almost 25 years. So I know you must concentrate this solid, this sludge. You cannot with dilute this fecal sludge into biogas digester. That means you cannot produce enough biogas to keep your temperature, to keep your economic operating of the biogas plant.
I think as well that the whole topic of looking at maximization of biogas production is really a matter of the environment you're looking at. So if you're looking at countries which are more dry, it might be a totally different case on a commercial biogas production system, like we have seen in the last presentation. So it's what are the co-substrates, and are these co-substrates are somehow in a competition to another system. It's getting a little bit complex or more complex than just finding a technical solution.